In Stars and Time is a game I wish I could have sat here and recommended to you, but despite its layered characters, interesting monsters, and immaculate world building, the game squanders all of it, because in less than an hour, the game's protagonist, Siffrin, is unceremoniously offed by a giant bolt. In Stars and Time is not the first video game to attempt the time loop method of storytelling, but after playing it, I'm convinced it should be the last, considering you ultimately die from something as minute as a banana. In a far-off throne room draped in darkness, a wave of pain crashes against your entire being. Your body refuses to move, completely unconcerned, with the king towering over you. Feet from where you lay are your party members, faintly clinging to life. All of the optimism that filled the air seconds ago evaporated in an instant. It was as if time and the universe colluded to make your demise. Never has an agony sunk its fingers this deep into you and squeezed. Words escape your lips as your mangled friends look on you in horror. You are asking to be the first one who is killed, which the king obliges. What could be happening? Death brings no release, only the regression of time. The same conversations, monsters, and even revelations. An unending false cycle where you convince yourself that this will be the day it's different, even though it's the same thing every time. Like a Pokemon fan. In Stars and Time is leisurely paced and doesn't mind slowing things down for you to absorb its handful of characters and places, though the premise makes it sound like it's rushing things. The game opens not at the start of a grand quest, but in the closing chapter of it. Firing up a fresh playthrough is like starting your older brother's save file on a SNES RPG while he's gone, and seeing a bunch of really well-worn characters decked with items and skills you aren't familiar with. Hell, there's an early scene where the characters use magical orbs to open the front gate of the final castle. It's a neat idea having a plot that's brave enough to exclude moments considered essential viewing in most RPGs. Unsurprisingly, from a writing perspective, starting your story near the end like this brings disadvantages, but also unique setups that let the writing flow in a more natural way. The 5 main characters might be new to you, but for the protagonist there's already a deep-seated chemistry he shares with all of them. There's no need for the game to spend excessive amounts of time breaking the ice between complete strangers because everyone's already shared the same hardships. It has more time to get into the finer details of each of the party members, fleshing them out so thoroughly that they'll feel more layered and complex than most RPG characters you've seen. None of that would matter though if the cast wasn't compelling. Siffrin isn't the center of this entourage, but he's our protagonist, which brings with it an interesting perspective. He's not a wide-eyed upstart looking to rid the world of wrongs and fight every giant thing he sees. He's quiet, reserved, and plays largely off the party members around him. His perspective feels more like a melancholic observer than a person who's always present. It's his relaxed and genuine appreciation for his friends that makes him so easy to like. Even though he was the second to last person to join Mirabelle's party, it's as if he's been here all along. Also, he's good at sniffing out traps. Mirabelle's the party's leader and was gifted with the rare ability to be proficient in 2 different types of magic. She spent part of her journey timid and adverse to the role she'd been given, finding herself on the receiving end of the party's teasing before slowly growing into the part she has to play by leading them to her home village to save it from being frozen in time by an evil king, who also happens to be the game's main antagonist, mind you. Odile is a wise and measured scholar who has practiced in this world's magic, reserved about her ambitions and acting as an anchor for when the group gets too silly. She likes a bit of pain if this portrait is anything to go off of. A woman in her 40s who's sadistic? This is what we call a good character. Bonnie is a brash child who keeps tabs on the group's food, and even if they can't be controlled directly, they'll assist in battle by attacking enemies and occasionally healing the party. In addition to missing the enemy, Bonnie misses their family and especially their sister, who, like many, were frozen by the king. And perhaps the game's best character, Isabeau, a seasoned warrior who's academically gifted but inept at articulating articulating his inner struggles. Haunted by how alone and weak he was in his youth, he vowed to grow into the kind of person he could depend on, so he did just that, and became the strongest character in the party. What a goddamn legend. Each person is complex and will even open up to Siffrin about their vulnerabilities if you're willing to put in the time. Despite what we've talked about so far, In Stars and Time is not content with just being that game that starts at the end. The plot places Siffrin squarely in the middle of an unending time loop that always resets when he dies. Early game, you'll quickly find yourself in the routine of waking up in the same field before talking to each of your party members in town. Usually this culminates in an attempted sleepover before the fateful day they have to enter the castle and fight the king. Attempted being the important word here. Smaller character-driven moments like this are sprinkled all throughout Stars and Time, especially once you're actually inside the castle. Scenes that connect the cast often take place in rooms filled with items or books, alluding to broader parts of the lore, like countries each character is from, or what the cast did before they adventured together. When they aren't rummaging through storage rooms, they'll stop and have some snacks, which Bonnie handles for some reason. I'm really convinced Mirabelle let Bonnie hold on to the items just so they'd have something to do and stop complaining. Also, why are they letting a kid go on such a dangerous mission in the first place?
It is what it is. It is what it is.
This is definitely one of In Stars and Time's biggest strengths. When the party's chemistry is on display, it's charming and easy to find yourself laughing along. They feel like old friends, not people you haven't seen until the end of their adventure. Though I do think the characters occasionally dip too much into sounding like a Tumblr comments section instead of characters in a fantasy setting. Like there's a moment where Isabeau literally says the words apology tour, and even if it made me laugh, that does not make it okay. At this point, you might be wondering if this game is all talking and sleepovers. It's not. I said before that lots of the time RPG Maker games can feel like they're holding a good story ransom behind awful gameplay, and it is with relief I tell you that In Stars and Time, while not likely to leave a footnote on the history of turn-based combat in video games, is surprisingly competent and even has a couple of neat tricks going for it. It definitely has more meat on its bones than most RPG Maker games, and when it feels like pushing you with its tougher encounters, it can actually be pretty cool. Each character has their own action bar that predictably lets them act when it's full. Interestingly, there is no mana resource. Instead, each of your magic or craft attacks operates on a cooldown. Offensive attacks, magic or otherwise, normally come in 3 different forms: rock, paper, and scissors. Looking at the enemy's hands lets you easily exploit their weakness by choosing the appropriate attack type. It's a simple but cute idea. Doing 5 of the same damage type in a row triggers a Persona-styled all-out attack that not only deals tons of damage but heals your entire party. Meaning even if an enemy is resistant to that damage type, it's often better to do it anyway as long as it continues your attack chain. Sometimes you'll end up in interesting situations where you're juggling defensive abilities and even moves that give other party members your turn just so you can really get those 5 attacks in a row. It can be fun, but these moments are unfortunately weighed down by the baggage that surrounds the combat, because there are many times early on where you might be lost or just trying to get to the next story moment but are constantly interrupted by these blobs, owed to their big hitboxes and how narrow the hallways can be. The monster designs themselves are cool, like this yassified something, but it can be hard to appreciate that when they are so often in the way of progressing the story, though there is a quality of life item you can get later on that alleviates this. For as much issues as I had with the combat, it ended up only being my second biggest issue with this game. I've seen thumbnails explaining that Stars and Time is a perfection of the time loop genre. They must have played a different game than I did, because Jesus Christ does this title have pacing problems. There are moments where new story beats are separated by what feels like miles of content you've seen before. You will have to defeat the same bosses, skip through the same text, and walk the same hallways over and over and over. It is agonizing. Stars and Time is not a roguelite, and even if there are convenient ways to grind in some quality of life additions like the ability to fast forward text, it does not offer enough to make the process painless. I know what some people will say in response to this. Boss door, the monotony of the gameplay drives home the story that much more by making the player feel the same way as Siffrin. Wanting to just get the next loop over with to see if there's an escape mirrors Siffrin's feelings exactly and creates a unique story experience that can't be replicated outside of video games. I partially agree. Using gameplay itself to align with how the protagonist feels can be very powerful, but there is such a thing as overdoing it, and unfortunately, I feel that Stars in Time could have very much communicated the same interesting situation without stretching the game out as long as it did. While the repetition does make our feelings overlap with Siffrin's, making us hate the grind this much runs the risk of making people never finish the game in the first place. And I'll be completely honest, if I wasn't making a video, I'd have walked away in the middle of Act 4. The lengths to which it extends its story to drive its point home about the disparity of the time loop could have still worked great in a smaller dose. That being said, it does do a solid job of poising interesting moral gray areas within this format. There are times where Siffrin questions how genuine his intentions really are, after suffering dozens of time loops, reducing his friends to a routine he has to perpetually complete just to further his escape instead of actually considering their own wants. It's a neat idea to chew on, considering even if we never end up in time loops ourselves, there are certainly moments where all of us act out of kindness merely because it's convenient, or lean on something we know about the person we're talking to tilt the outcome in our favor. It's also worth praising the mystery this game slowly unwinds. I won't spoil it here, but the way In Stars in Time drip feeds its lore to the player and gradually reveals what exactly is causing this time loop is one of the best incentives to keep playing, as are the characters themselves. I said earlier in this video that the main characters feel like old friends, and as with any old friend, they have their quips that make them a bit annoying. Siffrin's puns are violently unfunny. Bonnie's childlike perspective is a welcome reprieve from how bleak the world can be, but goddamn do they harp on Siffrin so much. Like, I get that they're a kid and stuff, but leave my man alone. Dude lost an eye for you, show some respect. The same goes for Odile, who spends a lot of her written dialogue just grilling Sif. Like, I don't mean to come off as a Siffrin simp, but if I was caught in an infinite loop with these people, I'd lose my mind too. My biggest small grievance lies with Isabeau. While Issa is an awesome dude, he is unfortunately at the center of perhaps the worst subplot of In Stars in Time, and calling it a subplot is probably a disservice as running gag fits better. Early on, it's obvious that Issa has feelings for Sif and can't bring himself to tell him. This is fine on paper, but in practice it plays out like an episode of Nisekoi, with every confession getting cut off like a light-hearted romantic anime comedy. Platonic or not, there's an obvious chemistry between them. These two have traveled entire countries together. They laugh at each other's quips and would each forfeit their lives for the other in a heartbeat, yet none of that dynamic wormed its way naturally into Issa's attempts to confess. Whether Sif ends up reciprocating or not, it doesn't change that it just seems very trite. Issa's attempts at confessing to Sif feel more like a tacked-on joke than a genuine subplot, and perhaps it was intended that way, but it felt jarring enough that it was inconsistent with the rest of their interactions. I say these things not to needlessly rip on this game, but to point out that even if the writing is very good, a lot of the time its characters can grate on you a little bit. Not so much that it ruins everything, but like that little bit, you know? Like when your friend has to stop hanging out early and you're like, yeah, I kinda had my fill of them anyway. In Stars in Time is a melting pot of interesting lore and character ideas its creator has obviously thought about for a very long time. Its use of gameplay to drive home its more powerful story beats might be overkill on occasion, but when it works, it's powerful enough that it's worth trudging through its more frustrating moments. Its cast might be an acquired taste and hard to come to gripes with at first, but before all is said and done, they're likely to be some of your favorite characters in any RPG Maker game. Its compelling mystery and respectable battle system are both marred by pacing problems, but are ultimately worth the hours you put in to get to the bottom of it. And without spoiling anything, the ending was something I wasn't expecting out of a game like this, and it was a very fitting way to end this story. While you're here, one of my patrons is working on a game, and while it's early in development, I do think it'd be nice to get some eyes on it, so please show your support and follow the link in the description. Let me know if you want me to do a lore video on some of the countries that are mentioned in this game. I think that would be an interesting video idea. I'm also aware that there's a prologue, so yeah, if you want me to revisit this game again in a future video, go ahead and let me know. I definitely enjoyed my time with it. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.